Good morning. Good morning. I am Michael Fleming. I'm the CEO and founder of the King Streets Management Group, and we're a management consultant training group. We actually do a wide variety of management and consulting. Well, I guess the best way I can kind of start off, how many people are familiar with knowledge management? Knowledge management, I'm telling you, it's huge. It's enormous. So if there's any note to take, definitely write those two words down, knowledge management. When you get a chance, research knowledge management. How many people are familiar with enterprise solutions? Enterprise solutions, let me tell you, it runs the world. Knowledge management, enterprise solutions runs the world. So if you get a chance, check that out. A lot of what we do is based in a knowledge management, enterprise solution type format. But for the most part, as a management group, we help nonprofits, for-profits, we help corporations, entities. What we do is we come in and do a very unique process that we call vision mapping. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? I'll try to speak up as much as I can. But we help organizations actually map out their entire vision. So we do this thing called visual writing, vision mapping. And what you're going to go through today is a process that we call Vision Quest. In less than probably about an hour and 15 minutes, we're going to map out your entire life, your past, your present, and future. So this is very private, very personal, very confidential. You don't have to share it with us. You don't have to share it with your neighbor. And you'll be surprised. This is what the process of knowledge management is able to do. It's able to pull all that knowledge, all that information out of you. It's able to extract it so that you have a model and things to work from. Now, one of the reasons that we call ourselves the King Streets Management Group, anybody happen to know, want to take a guess at how many Martin Luther King Streets there are in the country? How many would you think? 200, 300? There's 770 plus Martin Luther King Streets in the country. And so one of our things is that we've been out in the community and we're just now starting to actually kind of open it up fully to the public. But we've been out in the community for the last 5 years, for everything from homeless shelters to prisons to you name it. I mean, just anywhere where there was a need. Re-entry programs, Department of Juvenile Justice is even our largest client. We do everything from GED to life skills to mentoring. In 4 different counties we actually provide services to. In the course of a year, we actually help a total of 10 different counties just right here in the Atlanta area. But we've done work all over the country and twice in South Africa. So the thing about it, I'm always uncomfortable talking about us because everything we do is always about you. It's always about you. You're going to see real quick just how much it is about you. And real quick, I want to kind of introduce my colleague. This is Lorenzo Reed. And one of the reasons, too, that we call ourselves a management group, we all have our own separate companies, but we work with and for each other. We work with and for each other. So it's a very unique process, but we'll save all that for the end. The only rule we ever have in any of our workshops is just, basic maturity. If you got questions or anything at any point, you can raise your hand, ask us just about anything. But as far as anything in regards to all of us, we'll save that for the end because, again, it's going to all be about you. But Lorenzo Reed is with One Act Consulting. I love what he says about One Act Consulting because it only takes one act to change your life. And he actually has a workshop series we're going to be doing tomorrow, and we'll talk about that at the end, too. My other colleague to my left is Ms. Dion Longworth, and she's with Anson Medical Management Company. And Dion, like I said, we'll get a chance to kind of talk about each other. And Ms. Vanetta Perry, real quick, and your company. Okay. And for the sake of time, we're going to kind of jump right on into this thing. I know they're going to go ahead. Do I need a controller to turn it on? And what we're going to do is I got a ton of little anecdotes and metaphors and stuff that I love to say. And one of the biggest ones that I try to say to people more than anything else is that the ship does not dictate the ocean. The ship does not dictate the ocean. In other words, you can have the biggest, baddest, prettiest yacht in the world. You can be the biggest ocean liner in the world. But you better understand the signs of the ocean, how the ocean sways, what happens, what moves in what direction. You got to be able to understand the full external impact of what's taking place in the world. And once you're able to see that, then you can set your course. You're able to set your course. So the first part of this, what we try to do is get you to understand what's happening outside of us. Because the thing that I love to say to people are, you're not the 206 bones, you're not the 46 chromosomes, you're the person behind your eyes. And you've got to be able to expand that field of view. And that's what we are. We're in each other's field of view right now. And that gives us a presence to where we are and to what things we do. But the present of your life, you've got to be able to feel those 6 billion people in the world, right? That 304, 308 million, I've seen 2 numbers, on how many people that's in the U.S. You got to be able to feel that impact because I'm telling you, it definitely, being here in Atlanta, it passes through Atlanta all day long. It passes through Atlanta all day long. We are a big sharing organization. I'm telling you, we share everything. We share just about everything. As a matter of fact, if anyone's ever been through any of our workshops, we do these things all over the place. If anybody's ever been through one, then you might as well consider this training. Anytime you come to a workshop twice, we're like, hey, you're now trained, you're being trained. But the idea is that what we want to do is use this little simple drawing through our vision mapping process to tell a story. And as the process of telling that story, we want you to take into consideration the impact that your life is having. Now, most people, how many people have a 2-year plan? 5-year plan, right? 10-year plan? Anybody's got a 15, 20-year plan? 30-year plan? Hands are starting to go down, right? But let me tell you something. Everyone around us is always planning. You got a 2-year contract with your cell phone company, right? What do they say on the contract? 2-year plan, right? You got a car, that's a 3 to 5-year plan. You got a mortgage, that's sometimes what, 5, 15, 30-year plan, right? Now imagine planning for 1 billion people for 100 years. This is the kind of things that we're up against. And we got to be able to show you it's beyond the walls that we're sharing right now. So the way this particular exercise works is, those 4 people that's in the middle of that road, that's you traveling down the highway of life. That is you traveling down the highway of life. What I want you to do is circle one of those 4 people. You may know those other 3 people. You may not know those other 3 people. But that's you traveling down the highway of life. Now, this sounds like another awkward little thing to say, or awkward question to say, but how many times have you been around the sun? Sounds weird, don't it? But I'm trying to put something in perspective about how things change and what differences things and how the cycles of life take place. How many times have you been around the sun? Every birthday, right? Every 365 days. That's one more cycle around the sun. And you have to understand how these things are flowing and changing, because those cycles impact every single thing we do. And I'm telling you, when we get into a lot of the business management classes and things that we do, we really go way deep in detail about that, because people never see these cycles, but they're there all the time, and they impact every decision that we make, especially with our money. Now, the thing about it is, as you circle one of those 4 people, I'm going to make sure I control this here. What I want you to do, and this is the only part of this exercise where we even address the past, right below that, I want you to put your date of birth. Let me see if I got that. Right below those 4 people, I want you to put your date of birth. Okay? And then below that, I want you to write the word past. The past sets the rules for the future. The past sets the rules for the future. But we're going to get into that in the next part by itself. And then below that, I want you to write the word history. That's the history of everything. That's the history of everything. In this particular exercise, this is the only part that we're actually going to address the past. The rest of this is about the future and about what's to come. And how do you have to set that course? You have to understand the greater impact. That's just the way it works. I'm telling you, anything else, it throws you off the mark, and it usually throws you off the road. So now above that, above those 4 people, I want you to put 2011, this year. This is the closest future to us. The closest future to us. What are some of the things that's going to impact the rest of this year? That's impacting the rest of this year? You said what now? You said what? Gas prices, definitely. And gas prices, they finally had a guy come on the news the other day. He said gas prices going up they have absolutely nothing to do with demand. They said there's a speculating that's going on within the stock market that's just constantly pushing gas prices up. I'm going to tell you, I'm the type of person, I share everything I know. If you watch Bloomberg TV or Bloomberg.com, get it from the experts. Hear it from the people who are talking about it every day. But one of the biggest impacts that's happening for this year actually started last year. Every 10 years in America, we do what? Census, absolutely. So next to 2011, I want you to write census, because we did the census count last year. But now they're doing the census analysis this year, right? So that is changing districts, that's changing how money's going to be spent, that's changing where the jobs will be. I'm telling you, you pretty much can follow the pattern of what they're discussing about the census to tell you exactly where jobs are going to be. So this is actually still a census year. The census is impacting, and now, of course, the elections and everybody trying to figure out who's going to run for the elections, that's going to impact the rest of the year. But if you've never actually looked at any census data directly yourself, the best way to do it is to take your personal zip code, and if you put it in Google or you put it in any kind of search engine, there's going to be a 30-page report come back that's going to tell you everything about you and your neighbors except for your name and social security number. I'm telling you, governments and businesses study people like lab rats. They really do. And there's so much data out there about us and about everything else. Again, you've got to understand what's in the horizon. You've got to understand what's in the ocean, beyond your field of view. You've got to see it beyond your field of view. So that's just for 2011. Above that, do me a favor and write 2012. I'm going to get this down here. Write 2012. What's the big thing that's supposed to happen in 2012? President election. Yeah, and the world's supposed to be. That's right. That's right. So on this, do me a favor, we're going to put the election. The election is obviously going to reshape policy. Policies reshift procedures, and procedures reshift processes. And in other words, whether the current administration stays, whether the current administration goes, that will set the pattern for how many years? 4. So again, I'm telling you, these things are always being discussed. If we're not thinking in that framework, then what happens? If all the plans are going this way and we make our decisions to go this way, I tell you, unless you can lead that crowd that way, then most likely you're going to have to make some connection to both of those paths. And by the way, December 21st, 2012 is the winter solstice for 2012, and that's when the Incans, the Mayans calendar stops and all this stuff. So you're going to see all these conspiracy theories coming out next year and all these other movies coming out about it too. So that's 2012. Also, let me tell you, and I love using science as an example. I pretty much could use any industry. But a couple of years ago, a guy by the name of Richard Branson, anybody know who Richard Branson is? Owner of Virgin Mobile, Virgin Airlines, right? Yeah, I know. Once I say that part, everybody's like, yeah, they know him, and I know, we do. And this is what I'm talking about, how you have to pay attention to how these key people are making decisions that are going to impact the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of our life. A couple of years ago, they had this thing called the X Prize trying to prove that they can make commercial flights in and out of space. Anybody remember that? And Rattan and Warren and all that other stuff. They are now taking deposits for the first space flights, commercial space flights, commercial space flights. You're only going to go out of space for 4 hours. Anybody know how much it costs? $200,000, right? They already got different singers and performers and everybody else. Trust me, I'm trying to figure out how to get my ticket. So no, think about it. Think about it. I'm telling you, hey, I love the concept, the idea of that. That's why I say it's so easy for me to use science. But the reason I'm bringing Branson up, Branson does not like NASA. And again, this is going to impact jobs. We have the world's busiest what in Atlanta? Airport. So they get these commercial flights, where you think they're going to be coming out of? Atlanta. I'm telling you, so that may impact what you may see happening in Atlanta in the next 2 to 8 years. Now, the thing about that is, Mr. Branson in 2012, they said they're going to start the first ones, but we're going to go up to 2020. Remember, like I said, I like using science. So above that, I want you to put 2020. NASA is a great example of this. Last year, they crashed 2 satellites into the moon. Yeah, why? What were they looking for? Water. Yes, they were. And I love that. I'm telling you something that when we do classes in schools and everything, I say this all the time. Smart is not what you are. Smart is what you do. I'm going to tell you that now. Smart is not what you are. Smart is what you do. When you paying attention to what goes on in the world, you can sound so smart. And that's what we do. We try to get the kids to understand that. It's in paying attention to these little things, and all of a sudden you can sound brilliant. Trust me, this stuff that I know now, I didn't know 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I learned to pay attention to the people who made things sound smart. So you have to bring those things together. But they were looking for water, and they found it, a bunch of it. They knew it was up there. They just wanted to prove that it was up there, right? And while we're sitting in this room right now, there's 2 robots on Mars, 2. So they say the first manned flights are going to be 2050, but hey, 2020, so next to 2020, I want you to write moon. They want to put a base station on the moon. Now again, you think this may not impact you, but I'm telling you, you know how many businesses become billion dollar businesses feeding into NASA? And you think about it, the careers, the jobs, because it's no longer going to be the typical manufacturing jobs and industrial jobs, right? They're going to be knowledge-based jobs. That's why I said knowledge management in the beginning. Knowledge management is huge. Microsoft paid $1.2 billion for a company in Duluth, Georgia, just to acquire knowledge management, just to acquire it. So if you get a chance, definitely research knowledge management. So in 2020, they're going to the moon. So imagine all the resources, all the knowledge, all the information that's going to be spent over the next 9 years just to pull this off, right? But remember I talked about Branson, Mr. Branson. Remember I said he doesn't like NASA. So when the NASA announced that they were going to the moon, what did Mr. Branson announce? He's going to. As a matter of fact, he said, I want to open a hotel on the moon in 2020. Countries are starting to literally, and if anybody ever considered being in real estate, I'm dead serious. They're now starting to sell plots on the moon. They're starting to sell plots on the moon. This is how serious they are about this thing. So the whole thing is, I'm telling you, there's a whole collection of ideas and innovations and everything else that's going into all these efforts. This is the ocean, y'all. This is the ocean. And we're only talking about the next 9 years. The next 9 years. So now, let's go 100 years out. Let's go 100 years out. Let's see if we can get that going. Oh, the 100 years was supposed to come up. You know what? I don't have a synced in. I'm sorry. So let me put that in. Above that, I want you to put 2111. 2111. 100 years. Now, 10 years ago, my generation was 68 years old, was the life expectancy. Now, some of y'all, most of y'all are a little younger than me. So the life expectancy for y'all has gone up to 78. They said a generation below y'all, it said it's now going to be 100. And they said that most likely, y'all will live to be those ages healthily. In other words, you're not going to have all the major health issues just because all the innovations in science just alone. So for 100 years, most of us can't imagine 100 days, 100 weeks, right? 100 months. But you think about trying to plan for 1 billion people for 100 years. 1 billion people. Next to 2111, I want you to write China. China. China has a 100-year plan for 1.2 billion people. And that's all of us, all 100 or so of us sitting in this room. The thing about it is they are working on it while we're sitting in this room right now. They are working on an electric dam in China right now that's going to change the entire landscape of China. And then on top of that, China wants to compete against y'all. I'm going to tell you straight up. They are now training their kids in elementary school and middle school, and they're starting to hire people from America who have just natural dialect. They don't want the King's English. They want their kids to be able to speak like we speak. Why would they be training their kids now? Training their kids now to sound just like us. Why would they be doing that? For the same series of jobs that we're going to be going after. The thing about this is let me tell you, they want you to be able to, when you call for service on a support call or something, they want you literally to be able to not know where that person is from. They want you to know, and you can check this out for yourself. Oh, also, by that dam is going to change the entire infrastructure for agriculture, for technology, everything. They are now broadening the complete horizons. That's what I'm talking about. You've got to broaden that field of view that you're able to see. And that dam that they're working on, they say actually it's not supposed to need any service for 100 years. They're not expecting any major service for 300 years. For 300 years. Planning is not about perfection. That's not what planning is about. It's not about being perfect. Planning is about preparation. You got prepared for this day, so you planned out what you were going to wear, what route you were going to take, what you were going to eat. Those are the most basic elements of planning. Now, the stuff that we're showing you today is just to get you exposed to it. We have thousands of planning tools. When we meet with different clients and partners, we have this one technique, and hopefully we get a chance before we leave today, I'll show it. We call it the 16 blocks. And it works so well in schools, but when we do executive coaching and business coaching, those tools are amazing. Something as simple as knowing how to fold up a piece of paper right. You'll be surprised. And, if y'all remind me at the end, we'll show you how that works. So now, you're talking about what's on the horizon. What's on the horizon is what's to come. When you talk about expanding that field of view, you've got to pull in those resources that allow you to see it. When Bill Gates gets up in the morning, at least what he says by his book is called Business at the Speed of Thought. He says that when he gets up in the morning, the first thing he does is check on his competition. Why would you check on your competition? Right? The thing about it is, think about it. He said, literally in the book, he said, don't tell him what my competition did while I was asleep. So he said, hey, I've got to get back up to speed. He know what his business did before he went to sleep, so he don't have to worry about that. In other words, what does he do? He checks that expanded field of view first. He tries to figure out, hey, what's going on before he makes a decision about what he needs to do for himself. Check that expanded field of view. The sources and stuff while I'm on it, I'll tell you, like I said, usatoday.com, businessweek.com, cnnmoney.com. These are websites I'm telling you before I check anything else online. Those are the websites I start checking. A lot of times I don't even have a chance to even read anything beyond the headlines, and then I somehow throughout the day find more information on those things. Again, smarter in what you are, smart is what you do. So I'm telling you what I do to get this kind of information. But now in between here, there are so many different plans depending on the industry. If you brought it up, I can tell you pretty much what are the plans. I'm forever studying business trends and patterns and all those things. Because again, I can't make any decision for any of our clients without knowing this kind of information. And I'm telling you, it applies to the schoolroom. When we go into schools, both I'm telling you, elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, you'll be surprised how much kids love facts and information. They love the facts. There's a little drawing that we do of Atlanta, and when we do that drawing of Atlanta, I do 285, 75, 85, and then we do 20, and then we do 20 West, and we say, how far, if you got on 20 West and drove until you can't drive anymore, where would you end up? So, and that's about as far as most people go. Actually, it will go all the way to LA. It goes all the way to Arizona, connects to Highway 10, and will go all the way into LA, right? 75 north takes you up to Michigan. 75 south takes you down to the Florida Keys. 85 north will take you up toward New York and heading into Canada. 20 east will take you toward South Carolina to the beach and the coast. Atlanta is a very unique city. Atlanta is one of the few cities that collectively pulls in the entire United States. And then when you include the airport, you can go to the airport, get on a Delta flight, put your feet down here. The next time your feet touch the ground, you can be in China nonstop. So in other words, you've got to understand the horizon around us, that full impact. Now, that's what's on the road. What we do is on the left-hand side, I want you to write these key words down because we're going to bring it back a little closer. What's immediate to you? What's happening, right? The thing about it is, on that left-hand side is the direct impact to you. When the Rockefellers, the Sears Roebuck guys, all them people looked at and they needed to put public school systems in America, they pretty much looked at the populated areas in America and figured out a pattern. Every 3 to 5 miles is an elementary school. Every 5 to 7 miles is a middle school. Every 7 to 15 miles is a high school. Within that high school radius, there's most likely going to be a hospital and a fire department. This is basic landscape stuff, and understanding that if you're going to impact or be in a particular area, understand the landscape of that area. So on this left-hand side, this is where you live. This is where you sleep. This is your community. But I'm going to have you put something over here that I already mentioned. And in business, we call this the residential areas. No community in itself can survive just with a residential or retail area. There's an entire analysis just in that by itself. If you really want to understand how cities and stuff are built and how they become big and how they descend, study Detroit right now. Detroit will tell you all kind of clues. But residential community and neighborhoods. And then the thing about it is, on that side over there, on the left-hand side, what I want you to do is put your zip code down on the left-hand side. Your particular zip code. The average zip code in Atlanta averages about 27,000 people, 51% female, 49% male, obviously, right? But again, I'm telling you, research your particular zip code. That's the best way to find out something that's directly personal to you in regards to information and data. So that's on the left-hand side. Obviously, if this is where we live, on the right-hand side is what? Where we work, right? We have to make that transition, and work is changing every day. Businesses, big towers downtown are foreclosing. Because you know why? Teleworking is becoming bigger and bigger. I used to actually be a teleworking manager for Bell South. For 9 states, 900 people I have worked from home. So you got work on the right-hand side. You also, this is the business, the commerce that happens, right? I think I got the word commerce in there. In business, they call this the commercial. Hey, look at it, finally came up. They finally came up. So you got the commercial. This is the basic outlook. What happens to most of us is we get stuck within the insights of what we feel and think about things. That person behind your eyes, it creates an entire stage, entire video. The thing about it is that we see ourselves as the players, but we forget that something is always an observation. Like y'all in observation of me, I am an observation of you. It should create 2 spaces. It should create a presence, and it should create a present, a larger present. Now, I do this always usually as an intro to try to get that basic dialogue going on in your head. Because the next exercise that we do, it's going to draw you back into you. We call it the life map. Now, the entire workshop we call Vision Quest. But if you don't mind, and I usually have a handout, so I'll get an extra handout. Turn to the next page, and Ms. Longworth is going to kind of help me out. And on that back side is a drawing that we call the life map. Has anybody been through any of our workshops before? Okay, good. This is all new. All right. I was about to say, then you're going to be trained. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. In less than probably about 35 minutes, this is private, personal, confidential, and I know we all in kind of a little tight space. And the thing about this particular drawing, in less than 35 minutes with the right questions, as a matter of fact, it's not even about the drawing. It's about the process. It's about the process of thinking through things, how we process our own thoughts. But in less than about 35 minutes, your entire life story is going to be on this one little sheet of paper. And I know, again, we're sitting close, so if you're uncomfortable with answering any of the questions, you can write the answers down and fill them out later. And like I said, we're not going to ask, and we even typically at the end don't really ask people to, make pressure people to share, but if you want to share at the end, you're more than welcome to share. And then the rest of the pages, we may not get a chance to, but I at least wanted to bring them to you to give you an idea of the more expanded field of view, yet field of vision that we all have. We call this visual writing, vision mapping. We got different names, vision management, and you're going to kind of see the team kind of collaborating together. Okay, but what this typically works out is we're going to pretty much start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. We're going to start with our overall history, and there's a little map there, okay. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to talk about the United States, and we're going to talk about the world in itself, how this little map fits into the entire world. And at any point, too, you got any questions or comments, again, I'm Mike Fleming. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to kind of raise your hand, and I'll get you caught up. And then we got different people that are coming around the room to help you out as well. The way this typically starts off is we start off at the very bottom. It's been a while, and it's probably hard to see, but take that bottom line and split it in half. That bottom line and split it in half. This is the only circle on this page that's connected to you, but it's not about you for this exercise. It's not about you at all. The thing about this is we have to acknowledge something before us. That's why in that last diagram, I always try to acknowledge some element of the past or history first. So what that represents is on one side, I want you to type the word mother. One side, I want you to type the word father. Good or bad, happy or sad, what you know or don't know, is just to acknowledge that something else was connected to our belly button. That's what that's about. Mother, father, and okay. Now, the real story starts with these 5 circles right here. These 5 circles. Remember I talked about how many times you've been around the sun, right? We're going to look at the story of your life. The chapters of your life is what I like to call it. And as small as these circles are, and they're very small, we may have some extra handout, so that if you write a lot of information in them and you don't have enough room, we'll get you another handout, or we can see if we can write on the back of one of these problems. But the thing about it is, we got a little chart that we're going to show you, and this is the hardest part of this workshop is getting this chart right. And on this chart, what the thing about it is, you got to be able to find your age, and then you got to be able to find the sections, and they're going to show you here, and they'll walk around here and show you here in just a second. What you do is you find your age on this side first, and then it'll tell you what to write above. What you're going to do is write these age ranges above each one of those circles. I think I have an example on there. Let's see. Where do I aim it at? Okay. The history and the her story and ancestors, you don't necessarily have to write there yet. To give you an example, I think this is mine that's up there. Okay? So now, you'll do the same thing. Find your age on the left, and then it'll tell you the age range that needs to go above each one of those circles. And if anybody needs help, don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, they're gonna come walking around too. In essence, what we're doing is taking your age and dividing it by 5. And then, in essence, by dividing it by 5, we're going to create 5 chapters. So for me, this was 0 to 8 years old, 9 to 16 years old, 17 to 24, 25 to 13. Yes, look for your age on the left, and then look for the range going across. Y'all got to talk to me. Okay, we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back. This is the hardest part. Other than this, it should move fairly quick. Again, try to write it above the circles. Try to write it above the circles, because we're gonna have you write some information in the circle. Yeah, he'll come back when he comes back. But if you tell me, I'll tell you what. 24. The first one is 0 to 5. It's 6 to 10. That one to 15. 16 to 20. 21 to 5. Yeah. Again, we'll take extra time on this, so make sure you get it down. Make sure you get it down. Everybody have a pen? Everybody got pencils? All right. Anyone else needs help with it? Okay. Now, remember again, you're the person behind your eyes. So we're going to take this little journey here for a second. We're going to take a quick little journey. The very first question is the easiest one to answer. It's the easiest one to answer. Where did you live during those time periods of your life? In every one of those circles, where did you live? If you lived in more than one place, you can write all those places down. You can do city, town, state, country. Where did you live during those time periods of your life? In every one of those circles, put down the places that you lived during those time periods of your life. Yes, you can do it specifically or generally. If you want to just say the city, the specific street, if you want to do the address, it's entirely your map. I'm just giving basic instruction. Where did you live during those time periods in your life? Where did you live? For me, I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. Between 9 and 16, I lived in 4 different states. Idaho, but went back to Tennessee, South Carolina, all that stuff. Yep. Where did you live during those time periods in your life? Inside the circles, inside of each one of the circles. Where did you live during those time periods of your life? Where did you live during those time periods of your life? Again, these are personal, private, confidential. You do not have to share. We do a ton of life coaching, executive coaching, business coaching. And when I first started doing it, I'm kind of talking while y'all are writing. When I first started doing this, I worked with an organization out in Cobb County called Children Deserve to Win. And we had high-risk youth. And we used to sit down with them and actually go through this entire map with them. I tell you, it was powerful. Very powerful to have a device to let them tell their story. Okay? Where did you live during that time period? Second question. What schools did you attend, or what work did you do during these time periods of your life? What schools or work? In those same circles. That's why I said it's more about symbolism. I know it's small. So if you need to, we can kind of, usually we have a blank back, but I don't know if we have any extra sheets. But where's this, you don't have to, if you don't want to list the schools, then I'll tell you what, I'm going to get to the main question. Here's the main question that we actually jar. The reason we asked where were you, because then it makes it easy to remember this next question. What things, good or bad, happy or sad, happened during those time periods of your life? You walk in as this person. This is the thing that I love about this part of the exercise. We only see the image, the appearance of each other. But the true essence of who we are is what's happening behind the mind, right? I mean, happening within the mind. The thing about it, we carry all this that we represent. Now, you think about it. As much as those ideas and thoughts come to you, whenever you're sitting across from the table from someone, or you sit in a room of people or a room of students, the thing about that is this entire exchange is going on with them. The entire exchange is going on with them. So good or bad, happy or sad, what are some things that happen during that time period of your life? You will be surprised, young or old, male or female, white or black, it doesn't matter. You'll be surprised how much we all share so many other stories together. And we never actually share those stories. Even in this presence of Facebook, how we never even get to those stories. Is it bigger circles? Yeah, it is. It's smaller than normal too. No, that's deep. No, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Yeah. So you got where did you live? You got schools or jobs, and then you have events, activities, memories, experiences, right? Remember I said these are the 5 chapters of your life. Just like those travels around the sun. That's why I asked you earlier about those travels around the sun. The whole idea is those cycles, those seasons. You take your age, you multiply your age by 4. That is how many seasons you've gone through in your life. And I tell you, seasonal shifts are enormous. People don't think they are because we usually only make those changes ourselves. We change out our wardrobes. But businesses change out their entire product lines, their entire service lines over the course of seasons. Yep. You do not have to share with your neighbor. Thanks. You don't have to share with your neighbor. I see it already. Now we get that all the time too. And you'd be surprised whenever we have friends or couples in the room. It's always interesting. All right. Now the last circle normally represents what the last few years of your life, right? So those things usually people have a better sense of what took place. All right. Now, that covers your stories. This covers your travels. But remember, I started off when I even started talking about what's on the horizon, talking about the moment, that being in the now, being in that presence of each other, what we're doing, and our field of view, and how that field of view creates a presence, But the present of your life is enormous. And I'm always up here kind of smiling about it because I know, I have a sense anyway of what this next question kind of does for everyone. We're going to move from those chapters in your life. And oh, by the way, I'll tell you, one of the biggest honors I ever had of doing just those same questions that y'all just did, I actually had a chance to do this for Martin Luther King III at his office, right? And so I'm doing this thing for him, and he's got his pictures of his father up and everything else. And I tell you, we got to the second circle, and he stopped. And I looked at him, and he was like, he said, my father died in that circle. And for the first time for me personally, I sat there and I was like, wow, I saw Dr. King in a whole new light because I saw it through his son. The idea that here was a man who had lived without his father since he pretty much was like 8 or 9 years old at some very young age. And so it just put a whole new spin. And see, this is what I'm talking about when people are sitting across that table from you. When you start seeing something more than just what that appearance of that person looks like. And trust me, when I look out in this room, I see so much great capacity. I feel it, I sense it. And I know that I'm like, the world can't wait because we need all of it. We need every single bit of it. But it's in those moments, it's in those thoughts, it's in those ideas. There is no greater concept in this world than ideas. There is none. Because, you know what, while I'm on it, this part of the business side of it, we get into on the business as people all the time. Who's the largest landowner in the United States? He lives here in Atlanta. Ted Turner, that's right. So you would think that would make him one of the wealthiest people in the United States or the world, right? But who's the wealthiest person in the world? Well, there's actually 3. Huh? Actually, Bill Gates is still one of the top 3, and he rotates with Slim. And Carlos Slim. Carlos Slim is actually the wealthiest. But the thing about all these people, the wealthiest people usually own what kind of property? They don't usually own land. They own intellectual property. They own intellectual property. Intellectual property is your thoughts, your ideas, your concepts. If you're not the type of person who does journaling or write down your thoughts, I'm telling you, that's the biggest, best advice I could ever give you. Matter of fact, I normally have my little Dollar Tree notebook somewhere around me all the time. That's right. I mean, I used to say to kids and people all the time, what's a dollar worth? It all depends on what I do with those ideas. It all depends on what I do with it as a resource. So if you're not a journaling type person, please, at some point, get you some type of system where you're getting all your thoughts and ideas down. I'm telling you, it's real big in business. Because that really brings me to the now, to the moment. Because that's one of the things that we're going to explore. In that circle in the middle, in your very middle circle, do me a favor and put a little stick person in the middle of that circle. Put a little stick person in the middle of the circle. That is you in the center of your 168 hours in a week, your 1,440 minutes in a day. Now, how many seconds are there in a day? 86,400 seconds in a day. What I tell people, I love it. Again, smart ain't what y'all, smart is what you do. The thing about it is, what I love about that is the reality of that 86,400 seconds in a day, because it makes you a little bit more sensitive to that time, to that impact. And we tell people in business all the time, time does not necessarily dictate money, but if you don't have an appreciation of time, you're probably struggling with money, because they do go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. And we're going to take a look at your 86,400 seconds. Above that circle, I want you to write 86,400 seconds. 86,400 seconds. And we're going to look at your 86,400 seconds. Really going to look at it. The person behind your eyes with one simple question. And we want you to write the answer. We want you to write the answer to this question inside that circle. And I want you to write as many answers to this question as you possibly can think of. And I'm already smiling because we always get interesting response. The question is this. What do you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? What are things? Yes. Remember I said, we're not going to look. You don't have to share. You don't have to do any of that. This is personal, it's private, it's confidential. What are some things you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? You do not have to share with your neighbor. You don't have to share with anybody. So what are your thoughts inside that circle? We want you to write all your thoughts. What do you find yourself thinking about? Write down what you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or once an hour. You do not have to share. We love when people share, but you don't have to. What do you find yourself thinking about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? All your thoughts. All your thoughts. You can write it in code. You don't have to, you know, what they say, change the names to protect the innocent. You can do all that. Yep. What do you think about? Who do you think about? Where do you think about, right? And I'm going to tell you now, did I forget to tell y'all there's going to be a test? No. Oh, I guess I did forget. Oh, there's going to be a test. There's going to be a test. And the test just started, but you're writing those answers down. We'll get to it in just a little. Yeah, but again, it's personal, private. What are the things you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour? Okay, I'll get the time. Okay. Now you think about it. We got your travels, and we got your insights. That's really what thoughts are. They're insights. That's how you can think about something beyond your present. Your thoughts is that present in your life. It is all those things around you that you carry with you within the 168 hours in a week. It's where you are on Sundays and Mondays and Tuesdays and in the mornings and in the evenings and on the weekends. It's where you are in that space on the internet. It's on all those things. I'm telling you, it is collective. This is all those elements too of knowledge management. I'm telling you, it's pretty deep when you really look at the aspects of knowledge management. But it's in that draw. And that's why I'm telling you, thoughts and ideas run the world. They really do. Thoughts and ideas run the world. So those are your core thoughts. And again, I'm telling you, there's going to be a test on that. Now, look, we're actually going to skip the smaller pathway circles. We're going to go to the very top. If you look at the very top in the future circle, I have it split in half, horizontally. You can split it any way you want to, but I prefer horizontally. Split it horizontally. Split the future circle, the very top circle in half. Yep, the very top circle, split it in half. Remember, we did the what's on the horizon. We talked about what's coming over the next 9, 20 years, 30 years, 40, 50, 60 years, right? What's on your horizon? And the very top half of that circle, I want you to write down the things you want to accomplish in your lifetime. What are the things you want to accomplish in your lifetime? That's what I want you to write in that top half of that circle. Things you want to accomplish in your lifetime. Remember I told you, we're business consultants, management consultants, we're executive coaches, we're life coaches. Whatever you put down in that circle, are we going to be as serious about those things as you are? What do you want to accomplish in your lifetime? Dare to dream. Dare to dream. Our mind is quite capable of it. What do you want to accomplish in your lifetime? Today, 15. Yeah.
Okay.
What y'all are seeing my partners doing and all the team here doing is that this is the process of vision mapping that we're talking about. We go into a business or organization, and then we take these individual goals and thoughts that they have, and literally, we map out the entire wall. Their strategy will be on one part of the room, their staff will be in another part of the room, their process will be in another part of the room, and their providers or their support will be in another room. So you can see an entire person's vision in a panoramic view around the room. And there's a lot of different techniques like this. We don't claim one of our own. I mean, this is just our version of it. So you're starting that process. This worksheet is actually part of that vision mapping process that we're going through. In the bottom half of that circle, we're going to go one more time around the sun. We're going to go a year and a day. The reason we do that is that guarantees that if anybody has a birthday today, you're going to have another birthday. So there's different ways of setting goals. Some people do it birthday to birthday. They do it at the new year, or they do it through cycles. Somehow in their mind, you set those little cycle goals. Remember what I talked about before? How the cell phone company got a 2-year plan for us. Our car company got a 5-year plan for us. Our apartment's got a year plan for us. Our mortgage company's got a 10, 15-year plan for us. Most of us struggle with that concept of planning directly for ourselves. And Zig Ziglar and all those great motivational speakers, they all say less than 3% of the people in the world write down their goals. So I love to say to people when they fill out that top half of them, congratulations, you're now in the Goal Setters Club. Seriously, y'all in the Goal Setters Club. So that's a moment. Now the thing about it is we're going to go a year and a day out. A year and a day out. So we're going to go out to April 16, 2012. So in that bottom circle, do me a favor, over to the right of the bottom half of that circle, put April 16 through 2012. April 16, 2012. What are the goals and things that you need to accomplish or things you need to get taken care of between now and this time next year? Between now and this time next year. What are the things that you feel like you need to accomplish between now and this time next year? That's the rest of this spring, summer, fall, back around to winter 2012, right? April 16, 2012. Yep. What do you want to accomplish between a year and a day from now? That guarantees that everybody have another birthday. So you can do it birthday to birthday, or you can do it season to season. What do you want to accomplish? These are your more short-term and immediate goals. Most people, that's like all that matters to them. I tell people all the time, if you're living day to day, you're really always a day behind because you got to wait for the next day to come. You got to wait for the next day to come, and it is easy to get many days behind. So now we got your immediate goals and we got your lifetime goals. Your immediate goals and your lifetime goals. Okay? And as we're going through this too, if you think of things both in your past circle, your present circle, or even within these goal spaces, then definitely write those things. We're just giving a basic set of instructions. Now, as you have your goals down, what we're going to do is these smaller circles in the middle. Those smaller circles in the middle, I got mine upside down. We're actually only going to look at the first 5 to the left. The 5 to the right are going to be slightly different. The first 5 to the left are dedicated to the future circle. They're dedicated to the future circle. That first circle, the first circle to the left, I want you to look back at your future circle. Now it doesn't matter, lifetime or between now and next year. Out of everything that you put on that list of goals you want to accomplish, what's the #1 goal out of that goal that you want to have? That's your game plan A. What I want you to do is, I want you to put that in the first circle to the left. And it could be lifetime or birthday to birthday. What is the #1 goal that you want to accomplish from your future circle? From your destination circle, what is the first goal that you want to accomplish? That is your game plan A. That is your game plan A. Okay? And then next, I want you to put your second goal. And again, it can come from any space, lifetime or birthday to birthday. And I'll tell you, this is how this is going to work. We're looking for the top 5. But this is what I would recommend to people. If you don't have 5, you should always have at least 3. Because what that is you have your primary goal, a backup goal, and a backup to your backup. And in life and business, I'm telling you, that is crucial. And for me personally, I'll tell you straight up, my mother was a teenage mom, had 5 kids by the time she was 22. We grew up in a rough neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee, and all those transitioned in our lives, so we never had the support. So for years, I had to go work my game plan W, long before I had the chance to come back to my game plan A. But I never changed the game plan. Never changed the actual game plan. So sometimes you may have to go work some of those other game plans before you get back around to that number 1 game plan. All right? So the left side is dedicated to your goals. So we got goal 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. And sometimes when we ask this question, people will think of new goals. That's okay. Well, if it ain't already in your list and you thought of something new or different, put that down. What are your top 5 goals? Any questions? Comment. Anybody needing help? Okay, next to each one of those goals, I want you to put when you want that goal accomplished by. Next to each one of those goals, when do you want to accomplish by? And if it's something that's every day, write every day. If it's something between now and next week, next week. If it's something between now and 25 or now and 30, write 30. When do you want that goal accomplished by? This is how goal setting works. The more information, the more specific you get about that goal, usually the more specific you are about the task, about the steps, about the functions, the little things, right? Little things make big things. Little things make big things. So your top 5 goals, or at least your top 3, and then when you want those goals accomplished by. That's going to be a test on those too. That's going to be a test on those too as well. Love those tests. Now, we'll go back to you 168 hours in a week. Where are you on Sundays? Where are you on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, right? Where are you in the mornings? Where are you in the afternoons? Where are you in the evenings, right? I'm telling you, no, physically. We actually, I know that's a big one in Atlanta in your car too. And now to think about it, on the right-hand side, we're going to do something a little bit different. This first circle to the right is going to be different than the other 4. The first circle to the right is going to be different than the other 4. This is how it works. I want you to go back to your 86,400 seconds for a second. Your 86,400 seconds. Out of all the things that you put down that you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour, what's the number 1 thought that you seem to find yourself thinking about? That's what I want you to put right here. The other 4 are going to be something different. What is your number 1 thought? Your number 1 thought that you have from that 86,400 seconds that you find yourself thinking about. Now the other 4 places, the other 4 things are going to be something different. They're going to be the physical location of your life. The physical location of your life. You got number one, the top 4 locations you spend your time. The top 4 locations you spend your time. In an average week, where are you on Sundays? Where are you on Mondays? That's why I was asking that. Where are you on Tuesdays, right? Mornings, afternoons, evenings, where are you? All right, so now let's do a quick review. Let's do a quick review, because think about it. If I did nothing else, and I sat down with you, the conversations I could have with you about you, your entire story. Remember I said some simple circles, some simple questions, and yet I now have a complete outline of who you are. A complete outline of who you are. How you process who you are, your memories, your experiences, the things that you've gone through in your life, and how prosperous you feel about those things. Then when you get into the thoughts, very spiritual person, right? They say all the time, so a man think, so is he. I'm telling you, seriously. That's where you spend your money, your time. It's what you give your emotions up to. It's the people you think about. It's what you think about what doing with those people. It's all that kind of stuff that goes on. Then what really, see, the thing about goals, let me say this part about goals, and what I love about the goals section by itself. The thing about the goals, when people write down goals, that says that they still see something more, greater, different, better, something that's more than what it is in today. And we have that kind of capacity within us. We really do completely have that capacity in us. But we're going to test you on it just a second. But that's what I love about that goals section, because now I can hold you to it. I can hold you to those elements and say, hey, let's do the work. Let's get down to it. Let's make those things happen. And so now the thing about it is, what goals are really primary to you? The primary goals you have, that primary thought, and then the real situations that you're in every day. If you wanted to, next to those locations, you could actually write down who are the people you deal with at those locations. Are all those locations healthy, wealthy, and wise, right? There's all these realities about what those locations, because when you look at that 168 hours in your week, these are the places of impact in your life. But it's better than that and greater than that. We leave 2 circles off on this diagram intentionally. 2 circles. Because most of us say we don't have it or we can't see it. But when I was younger, and I tell people all the time, there isn't anything I can claim for myself. I am the sum of my parts. And what it is, I've had great mentors and people who have come through my life. And I claim their stories, and I use their stories to help others with their story. And that's the way it worked. And I had a great mentor when I was young, and she used to tell me all the time. She said, Michael, she said, you can't get rich in this world without making somebody else rich. She said, you can't get wealthy in this world without making somebody else wealthy. And I've learned you can't get successful in this world without making other people successful. And spiritually, I've learned I can't do anything or help anybody else with their, have my purpose without helping somebody else with their purpose. This is the collection of things that we do and what we need. But in business, they call it the support circle. So in the bottom left-hand corner, it's been a while since I used this file, so we got it up here on this drawing, but I want you to put this down in the bottom left-hand corner. Put a circle. I want you to draw it in. We have people draw this in because we hear it so often with people that they don't have this in their life. We're going to call it the support circle, but I want you to put it down in the bottom left-hand corner. The bottom left-hand corner. That is your support circle. And I'm going to tell you, the larger that support circle is, you'll be surprised how much them goals will start getting knocked down. So in that support circle, what I want you to do is write the names and the initials of people that you consider to be in your support circle. If you don't want to write the whole name, you can write the initials. But who are the people that you consider to be in your support circle? And I'm telling you, we come with everything we have to give. So you're more than welcome to put the King Streets Management Group in your support circle. And I'm telling you, we do a whole series of these workshops. We haven't one on this Saturday, as a matter of fact. But again, we just have to get y'all all the information. So you're more than welcome to come to all our series of workshops. So in your support circle, who are the key people that are in your support circle? And there's going to be a test on that too. Okay. Now you see, everything kind of sets up in parallel. So as you're writing those things down too, the next thing that we're going to talk about is a real space, a real place for people. And it's the one that I worry about the most. And I'm telling you, I've been there often. But now I've learned to kind of master that space. What it is on the right-hand side, even though I'm showing it up here, I want you to put it in that same area on the right-hand side, another circle. And we're going to call this circle the alone circle. Now, what's interesting about the word alone? It has the word one in it, right? That is a real space, a real place, a real time. And a lot of us get there too often, too much. In other words, we'll get into that alone space when nothing else on this map, when there isn't anything else on this map that matters to you, that's most likely where you are. You draw back into that alone space. A lot of times when I used to find myself in the past was because when I find myself in my alone circle, it was because something on my map was changing me or pressing me. My past was either pressing me or something about my present and in my future was pressing me too. So the whole idea is that you got to understand how that alone time can really be an effective time. Now, I just came across it. It's not like I was introduced to it the way I'm describing it today. When I was younger and I had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things were changing in my life, I used to read a lot, I used to write a lot. That's where I get that whole writing thing from. I read the Bible a lot, did all these things to kind of keep myself centered. What I didn't know at that time, I was in essence trying to provide my own therapy, provide my own meditation. So that alone space became a place of retreat for me to try to reassess and reevaluate. And then I just made it a formal place now. Now when I'm in that alone space, I'm forever writing. I'm forever trying to figure out the adjustments. I may write 5 pages of stuff to get to two thoughts. So what I'm saying about that alone space, what are things that you either currently do, or what things can be suggested that you do, or what things you even think that you need to do when you're in your alone time that re-strengthens you and revitalizes you. Put that in that circle. What are the things that you do in your alone time that makes you strong? And she did that with confidence. Now, between those support circles and those alone circles, that's what connects all our maps together. That's what connects all our maps together. What are those things that you do in that time period? I love outdoors. I love nature and water. So that's definitely a common thing for me. And you're more than welcome. Ms. Longworth has been writing down the list. You're more than welcome to take everything off that list and try some of these things. You'll be surprised. Meditation, prayer, all those things are amazing things. They give you a moment to step back, to reassess, to reevaluate. Now, the test. The test. The real test is, I'm telling you, in life and in business and work and career, at the end of the day, there's a contrast between things, or discernment between things. How we actually evaluate the way we process our lives. Again, about that field of vision, field of view that I was talking about earlier. How to expand that overall field of view. So there's all these contrasts that are here on this map. So let's check that contrast. The first test is a simple one. The first test is a simple one. You get stuck in your alone circle, which circle should you go to next? Support, every single time. I'm telling you, I don't spend a lot of time being lost. I'm not one of them guys. If I'm in a new town or somewhere, I don't know where I'm going. First of all, gas is too high. I'm pulling over to ask for direction. I can't spend the time. In other words, support doesn't have to be from somebody I know. It just needs to be from somebody who knows. The thing about it is, you take that time, you get into that support circle, you redefine the course, get back on the course. You get back on the course every time. Now, the second part of the test, the support circle. Look at the names and initials you have in those support circles. Now, here's the thing about that support circle. How many of those people would have put your name in their support circle? That has to be as big of a part as you need in a support circle. You got to be willing to be on other people's team. And remember I said it earlier? We all have our own separate companies. We work with and for each other. We map out our visions, our strategies, our goals long before we sit down with a client or a partner. Long before we do it. So I'm not just telling you this just to be telling you this. And there's a lot of us. This is just the main group right here. But there's a lot of us that are getting involved. Remember I said there's 770 Martin Luther King streets? Oh, we're very serious about working on all those Martin Luther King streets and the King Street communities and corridors. We're very serious about doing that. So we're going to the heart of the issues, the heart of the problems. We're not trying to get away from these things. But in business, we've learned how to make those things profitable. And I'm telling you, we share all that. We share all that. We're not that nonprofits are bad, but we're not a nonprofit at all. So now, that's the 2 core things when you look at just the alone circle and support circle as far as the test. Now the test is going to get a little deeper. Your number one goal, your number one thought. Look at both of them. Yeah. And I said we did these in prisons, homeless shelters, runaway centers, we've done these things everywhere. Okay, we've seen all kind of things in both those circles. But it comes down to one set of questions though. Do they match? Yeah. Do they match? By show of hands, how many match? That's pretty good. I'm telling you, that's the best number we have ever had. Let me tell you something, that's pretty sharp. Now that makes me enormous security. I'm telling you, enormous security. Normally we see about 3% of the room. Normally we see about 3% of the room. Now imagine when we do these in middle schools and high schools, they don't even come close. They don't even come close. And so the thing about it is, there's an alignment that you have to look at. It's not so bad that they don't match, as long as they're not completely far away from each other. That's not the one that I worry about the most. your goals. Look at all 5 of them. Look at all 5 of your goals. Because the number one usually can show up in what I'm about to ask you. But all 5 of them, let's see how they show up. Look at all 5 of those goals and look at everything that you put down that you think about once every 5 minutes or once an hour. How many of those other goals are in those things that you organizing ideas and thoughts? That's what we try to get you to understand. You got to find some element of it. Consider this a tool, not just a map, not just a guide. This is in essence a tool. This is an entire process. I'm not kidding. We actually use these just about everywhere we go. Anytime we're sitting with somebody across the table, I don't care what the age, from 8 to now 91, the oldest person we had at a workshop the other day was 91 years old. And from 8 to 91, we sit down with people on personal one-on-one sessions. And if anybody's ever interested in the life coaching piece, we'll talk about it here in a second too. But does this help? Yes. Exactly. It's the most basic kind of help. And that's the most basic thing that is the most basic need that we come here to try to serve. And that's the most basic thing that we do is try to start that dialogue somewhere internally with all of us. We try to see that framework. Now, if you wanted to, and I'm surprised she's not reminded because Ms. Longworth needs to get something about it. But you see how everything is connected to some series of lines, right? All those little smaller lines. Technically, if you wanted to, you could put multiple little dots on all those lines. Because again, little things make big things. If you have a destination, you got to take care of the journey. So there's a lot of little things that you have to do along the way. That's why I say get you a notebook. By the way, how many people do have a notebook or a journal and things that they do? See, again, I'm telling you, hey, we definitely need more and more hands up. So hopefully we get a chance to do another series of classes. We'll get more and more hands up in the way. Now, the thing about this is, any questions or comments about that at all? Any questions or comments? And you know what? I have to check the time. Yeah, now the thing about it, the reason I'm saying that is, if you turn to the next page, the very next page, at some point, your activities, your goals, and your dreams, they're going to show up on the calendar. There's no way around it. They're going to show up on the calendar. What's the intent? That's just an exercise in thought, right? So you technically can take all these goals and start marking them down. You can actually say, when do I want to accomplish the goals, be specific to those goals, what needs to happen. But in the course of doing things, there are specific activities that happen in every month. That's why whenever we do annual calendars, we make a point with the seasons. So as you put the seasons in, then there's a way to try to correspond your goals and your activities in regards to that overall season. Depending on what industries and fields that you want to go into, once you share that kind of information, we can kind of tell you what data and information impacts that field or industry. So, depending on how much time we have, but before I even jump to this too, now even though we say you don't have to share, is there anything about the exercise in itself that just kind of stands out that anybody can see? Put it this way, how many of y'all would think that you know somebody else that would need this one? We can use somebody else. That's another impact too. So you have to make sure. The reason I'm saying that we understand that support circle too, because that's that connection. Once you connect those support circles together, imagine if we all, I can't expect anybody to do it, if we all shared our maps with each other, how fast we really would see the true story of who we are and what we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and what we're trying to do. How fast we would start helping each other accomplish our dreams and our goals. That's a huge impact. And really, I'll tell you something else too, because I don't ever want to take for granted the stress and the things that happen in those 4 locations of where we are. That overall impact. So you have to understand how these things leverage out to other things, how one side constantly relates to the other. So I always want to try to give people time, but anything in particular about the past, the present, or the future that you can see yourself sharing, you're okay sharing with the crowd. Anyone? Okay, and I never expect anybody to do it, but does anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to answer the first question when you said what stands out in particular. I think that when you brought it to the support circle, because a lot of times I do a lot of digging back for myself, for a while. It's just like I think I've always conceptualized my goals and my vision for my life without really factoring in the people that can help me get there. And so oftentimes I've been frustrated. Like I know everything is possible, but it's like how is everything really going to work itself out over time? I think that's the biggest part.
I love it. Did everybody on that side here too as well? The thing about that type of comment, I say we see this in business all the time. And we're quick to tell people in business that, look, I really don't care where I am on the train, as long as I'm on the train. And I know what people is, right? So a lot of people sometimes, they think they need to be in the main train, the main engine part of the train. I'm like, no, I know where you're headed. And so if you put me in a back car, and when you get to the depot, you're so important they grab your bags, I'm gonna be okay with that. Seriously, I'm going to be okay with that. When I get out, I get my bags, but at the same time, you don't tell you, no, I'm telling you, it's priceless. Your brain is always trying to help you get to the solution. It's the greatest tool in you, right? It is trying to help you resolve something, I'll tell you. And you know, the way I always have looked at things, I never saw myself in isolation. Anything that was happening to me, I was like, there must be at least another 100,000 people who this is happening to. And it's got to be, you know, and maybe that was my way of trying to protect my ego by saying, oh man, this can't possibly just happen to me. But over life, I really found that out. My thoughts and my ideas are connected to other people's thoughts and ideas because they have similar circumstances. And the more we resolve that for ourselves, the more that gives us the capacity to resolve that for somebody else. It teaches us compassion. It really does. It teaches you to kind of sit back sometimes in those thoughts and say, well, what's the possibilities of things? And then as you get stronger, then you learn the difference between possibility and probability. Anything's possible, but your mind starts working through the narrow things to figure out what are the things that we actually can accomplish and we actually can do. See, again, I love those kind of comments, but that's why I constantly encourage it. I was looking around for mine, but I'm telling you, I really do have one of them Dollar Tree notebooks that I'm writing in forever and a day. So, man, definitely get all those thoughts down. And before I leave, I'm going to try to find it because not only do I have the notebook, but I have lines on the page. And I put different sets of thoughts in different categories. And then I later can contrast and compare those thoughts. Oh, she has it right there. Good. No, serious. That is literally my notebook. And so you see, now when I first started off, I used to only have 2 lines on the page. Then I started getting a 3 and a 4. So the type of thing that you're talking about, because I'm the same way. I'm constantly processing. And you can, and even with Lorenzo and all the rest of it, we'll tell you, each one of us have their own series of thoughts and ideas that we do it. And plus, we'll still do the 16 blocks before we finish too. And I'm going to show you another way to organize all those thoughts too. Yes, somebody have their hand up over? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
It helps keep you in that balance.
Absolutely. Now, for those that's in psychology, you may have a deeper understanding of it, but that's the same way I kind of see it. I'm like, and that's what I do. I use it to try to figure out what went out of alignment. Something went out of alignment. I just got to figure out what. And most likely, there's usually a major shift when that happens a lot. Yes, sir. Yeah, no, let me tell you what happened. What age? Middle school. No, I tell you, it has actually worked well with middle school kids. And I mean, surprisingly so. You know, we had a mixture in one class of both elementary, middle school, and high school kids. I thought for sure the high school, the overall age size went great. But I mean, with the middle school kids seemed to have been engaged in more. I was shocked. In other settings with them, we had more difficulty. But you know what typically happens with kids during that time period? I'm trying to remember the last one we did. We did one with the Boys and Girls Club with the middle school kids. My mind is thinking through. The people invited us, they had been struggling with the kids for one. They were like, you think the kids gonna do it? I said, yeah. What started the process off of them, and I have to show you how to do this little Atlanta drawing, that settled the whole class. Because it made them think, wow, I never thought, it's the stage. The map works. It's what you do before that. So if you get a chance, I just have to get you the information, and we can talk about some of the strategies on how to stage it first. And then then once you stage it in other words, what you see in those first 5 minutes, then go into the maps. You'll be surprised, and then just take them straight on through the instruction plan. Yeah. And one thing about this, and we do say this too, and that's one of the reasons that, again, we share everything. On the business side of it, I tell people all the time, especially if anybody think they can want to use this or learn how to use it overall, well, good. I mean, that's a good shorthand instead of me taking that for granted. But I tell folks all the time, I don't care. Use it. Take all these systems, do whatever you got to do with it. But in business, I tell people all the time, if you start making money on it, call me. I ain't gonna stop you from doing it. I just want my cut. I'm so serious. That's the business side of it. But no, but I'm dead serious. That's and literally, we tell people. That's why I said at the very beginning, if you've gone through a workshop with us once, and like you come to the one on Saturday, the one on Saturday is mixed. And I know y'all have an activity on tomorrow, so for those that can't make it, or you got friends that want to make it, definitely come and we'll give you the information on that. Lorenzo's program is.
Well, my program is called Mastering You, and it starts out, there's a slightly different staging, but then we go through the life mapping again. Right? Then after the life mapping, because what we find, you guys are great. Most people, their number one thought, matching their number one goal or any of their goals is not the norm. So what we normally find is that people don't match. So after that, what we go through is the second half of Mastering You, which is a capacity map, and where the basic formula is C plus B squared equals infinite G. So it's capacity plus balance of personal and private life equals infinite growth. And what we do is show you how to get back on track, or if you're slightly off track, how to move yourself on track, or even if you're on track, how to advance that process through a couple of other key areas that we look at to get your mindset in the right format so that your goals start to match. To get your locations and your activities and everything in the right mindset so that you start to match up with your goals. So that's the Mastering You process that we're going through tomorrow.
And the reason I was bringing it up, so for anybody that will get a chance to come again tomorrow, that's now the beginning of your training. Seriously, I'm telling you, by the time you'll come through, you'll be like, man, that's a script. I'm like, we didn't hide that, seriously. And then so we're counting on that because even though we talked about the King Streets primarily, wherever there's a need in the community, we're trying to respond to. And so we know it's going to take an army of people. And so whether people work with us independently or with their own business, we encourage that too, by the way. Get your own business. LLCs are pretty easy to do because you should always have your own separate strategy on the end. There wasn't a single corporation I worked for in the last 15 years where I didn't have my own business on the side. I did. And so in 2002, when the companies finally went out of business and all that stuff, all my friends were panicking. I already had enough clients, and I was like, oh, I'm gone. So, matter of fact, I was pretty much waiting for that day. So there's nothing wrong with it because in business they have this thing called exit strategies. Anybody ever heard of exit strategy? Yes. And you know what I tell people? If you've ever been laid off, you were that company's exit strategy. That's how it works. Seriously, an exit strategy, and they got to give you proof of how beneficial an exit strategy is. When companies lay off people, and they are a publicly traded company, their stock goes up. Why does their stock go up when they lay off people? Yeah, what they're saying to the stockholders is we can do more with less, and you were less. Seriously, so we have to be honest about this is the environment that we're in. And nowadays, especially with the way jobs and budgets and things are shaping up, you almost have to approach things as an independent business owner, as an independent contractor. And if those are things that you're not familiar with, you got to research it. This is now the basic language, the basic information, the basic conversation in corporate and enterprise, and now even in government. Because government is constantly being groomed by corporate to set these new policies and trends. And so you want to kind of, you want to make sure you know the landscape more than anything else. Any questions coming, not just about the map, just anything overall, and just whether there's anything more about what we do or things that we have. If not, then one of the things that I want to be able to do. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, this is just about what you said earlier. Everybody thinks about the same thing. Alone in the support circle. I was reading this book. I thought it was interesting. Where it talks about the two go hand in hand, and you have to have a fellowship, and you have to have a long time, but you have to learn how to be with people to know how to function alone, and you have to know how to be alone to be with other people.
No, that's good. And the reason I'm smiling is, I love it. I love the word fellowship, period. But I heard a comedian say once, if your family wasn't your family, would you be friends with them? See, I know. Yeah. See, that's kind of stuff that gets you going. So the idea of how we interact with each other, and I literally, my mother, obviously, there are certain levels of deep thought I guess I get from her, and I was sitting talking to her this past weekend, and I was talking about the idiosyncrasies and all the stuff that we all have, and the way we all kind of have to tolerate each other and appreciate each other and all these things going back and forth. And in the course of the discussion, I was like, man, I really don't know a lot about this. Seriously. So I was like, I've got to start now doing a lot more research to understand that level of human interaction because so much for me, I see it in the midst of work, not just business. I see it in the midst of work instead of just seeing it as a truly basic human exchange. Yeah, I've played sports and all that stuff my whole life, but it's just as you know, it's having to relearn it and understand it and appreciate that, and especially if you're in early education and all those things. These are realities, especially for our kids and for the parents and for, you know, the support system they have around them. So you really got to be honest and genuine about when they bring in their issues and problems, and not ignore those things and think that they're not relevant to why this kid doesn't have his grades up or something like that. You know, these are real issues. And we at one point we volunteered at through the library system, and a couple years ago, and every Friday for free we showed up and just put a sign up saying, if you need your GED or you want assistance with job readiness and life coaching, just come on in. And then we showed them. We went to Adamsville, Thomasville, College Park, and Bankhead before they closed before they actually closed the projects. We literally at the library right across the street from them. And that's why I was saying over the years we went everywhere testing this thing to see, you know, can the community respond, and the community did. These are tools that they were very receptive to. So we're constantly analyzing how to have that exchange, how to have that fellowship. Any other questions? One of the things that I want to make sure I do, and I don't know if y'all have any scratch paper. And typically we do this with a blank sheet of paper. Do y'all have any kind of blank paper too? I want to show you something on the, Ms. Long has some blank paper, because this is a little simple technique that we call a 16 blocks. And it may not seem like much, and I don't know if anybody's even familiar with it, but when we finish it, most people are like, oh, I've seen something like it. And they're gonna pass this around, and then we're gonna go back to these sheets if we have time. And I put the other visuals in there just to show you that there's an extended setup within the series. But we're gonna pass these around. And I tell you, normally I have a pocket full of these things too, and they most likely are in my laptop bag. Okay, yeah, they got the blank sheets coming around. I want to make sure everybody has blank sheets. I need one. Blank sheet.
Says plenty.
Anyone else? Everybody have a blank sheet? Still need one?
Just pass them around. Because Lorenzo needs one on this side.
Everybody's good on both sides? Okay. What typically happens is when we sit down with a client, we do a lot of listening and we do a lot of writing. Literally, from the moment a client sits down with us, or the moment anyone sits down with us, they start talking, we're writing the entire time. When people first come out with us, they were like, man, all y'all got y'all head down. How are y'all listening to them? I'm like, because we're taking notes. So this is what I'm about to show you is an interesting note-taking process. We use this with kids. Literally in our GD services and everything else that we do. I'm telling you, and it works enormously well to do this. If I gave you one blank sheet of paper, which I've done, and I talk for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, and you just have to write notes on here and you did it the traditional way, those notes are going to be all over the place. They're going to be all over the place. He's already doing it, actually. And so the thing about it is, if you take this one little sheet of paper, turn it to the landscape way, this will be an easy way. It works both ways. Turn the landscape, fold in half. Fold in half. Okay. Everybody good? Fold in half one more time. I'm always trying to leave people with techniques and tools. Techniques and tools. Now we're down about that size there. Got this. All right. Then you fold it in half again. Now we're down to a smaller size. Again, remember we call it 16 blocks. We're just working down to the 16 blocks. Fold it in half again. Okay. Got it down to about that size right there. And then the final little fold. Final little fold. I now changed the little sheet of paper into a storyboard. It's about that big, right? I'm telling you, this works very well with children. I'm telling you, it makes it so easy for you to take notes, to give them instruction and everything. Now that you got it down to the little block right there, unfold it. Got 16 blocks. So when we work with youth and kids, when we're working with problems, we literally will put one problem in every block. If we're teaching vocabulary, we put one vocabulary in every block. When we're working with business owners and they start talking about their business ideas, when we work with nonprofits, we work with government agencies, you will be surprised how much people pay us to write in these little boxes. I'm dead serious. That's how impactful these little boxes can be. Before we finish, we actually, every single word they speak, every single word that person says in that meeting, and we always tell people this, everything we met for a reason, so obviously everything you're talking about was important. And because they're like, wow, y'all you have everything I said down. Literally every single basic concept or idea or thought that they have, we'll put that single individual thought in there. Now that's give an example. I'm gonna go ahead and give you how many people want to own their own business someday? Okay, that's about the same. Okay, that's a good number. How many people at least want to be a boss someday? Right? At least that should be the rest of the room. Right? Okay, then I'm gonna give you an idea. What I want you to do, I'm gonna give you a basic instruction. This is the basic format that runs all businesses. And I heard them talking about earlier about y'all elevator statement and everything too. But these are the basic components that run every business. And I want you to put one in each block. In the very first block, in the top left, first of all, always put today's date. Today is the 15th. Put the 15th at the top. And now, once it's this way, you can do it horizontally or you can do it landscape or portrait. It doesn't matter now that you have the 16 blocks. But always put today's date. And I'm going to give you the basic outline for everything in business, and it comes from a business planning format. The first block, I want you to write an executive summary. Executive summary. In business, and really not just in business, because in life, you're listening for that person's life summary. When you get the life map, and technically that's what it is. It's your life summary. That's your executive summary goes in the first block. When you're writing a business plan, that is the first page in the business plan, right? Your executive summary. Next is your company summary. Company summary. The company summary. You start talking about, how long the company's been around, who's involved, what your real mission statement is. I'm telling you, you pretty much can find these things in some, matter of fact, I'm gonna share that with you too. It's a very unique research. Anybody been to Harvard? I'm gonna take y'all out. You been to Harvard? Oh, hey, great. Hey, I really need to ask you some questions. No, I go to Harvard every day. The reason why is I'm gonna tell you a technique I do. So remind me. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and say it since I mentioned it. What I do when I do research, cutting corners, right? The thing about it is the power of the internet. Whenever I'm researching something, so if I want to, like I'm going to do with the with just the human interaction piece and fellowship, you literally can put in fellowship Harvard PPT. What does PPT stand for? PowerPoint. Yes. Let me tell you what these Harvard professors do, right? They teach a class, they put it online. So if you put in what you're looking for and you put PPT, their PowerPoints come up. Their PowerPoints come up. And that's with everything. So I go to Harvard and all them schools every chance I get. I go pull their information down and put it in this space. So the things I'm giving you, you can put in executive summary, Harvard, PPT, and there's any Harvard instructor that has ever done anything about executive summaries, and he's got a PowerPoint, he or she got a PowerPoint out there to come right on up. So executive summary, company summary, products and services. Products and services. This again is the basic structure, the basic outline behind all of it. I don't even know if we're going to fill all the boxes, but we're going to in there. Marketing and sales. So we got executive summary, company summary. We got products and services, marketing and sales. Next, we got management. You can do it on the first to the left, second to the left. Management. And then when the gentleman was saying about your team too, when all the times that I've had a chance to sit down with investors, and I've been very fortunate, had investors invest in my own company and helped other people get investments in their company. The thing about it, all the times that I've sat down, once they like the concept and idea, their base criteria is they don't necessarily buy concepts and ideas, they buy leadership. And leadership is the ability to show that you have a strong leadership team. A strong leadership team. Because the way an investor will see it is, great idea, great concept, but you can't do it by yourself. So who is your leadership team? Who's on your board? Who's on all this other stuff? They are going to explore. They are going to explore what do you have. And if you do any kind of contract with the government, they're going to do the same thing. So if you ever think about doing something independent, you've got to understand that eventually you are selling that leadership. So the very next block is within the management has an entire structure just by itself, worth researching by itself. The next is legal. Legal. You're pretty much not going to do anything without an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. You're going to have all your non-disclosure agreements. You're going to have all that kind of stuff. Attorneys are going to get involved. So success breeds more success. When you get more successful, people start bringing you a lot of work. That's why I see work before I see anything else. Legal. Next, your financials. If you do not like math, again, that gets back to that same thing that I talked about before about in regards to how time and money relate. And really, once you do financials, you're showing that correlation between that. How much money I'm going to spend over what time period. That's really what you're trying to show. And everything, sadly, has a dollar value associated with it in the world right now. Capitalism rules the world, right? So every single thing, dying has a value. Living, birthing, being, all these things, breathing has a value. I'm dead serious. Everything, sadly, has a dollar value on it now. So your financials. Then the next is contingency planning. Contingency planning. Yep. Because this is the part that I'm... Now, the contingency planning, that's what we're talking about earlier, about what y'all playing is about your game plan A, your game plan B, having a backup plan. In all honesty, when I was in the earlier stages of being a consultant, I felt like I was better at that than anybody else, and that's what gave me an edge. That's what gave me my differentiator, was the ability to show people that I can help them think of a contingency plan. Where everybody else was talking about the plan, and this is another thing, too, about planning. Planning itself is an exercise. Whenever we talk to people, and they're like, oh, I need to put a plan together, I need to put this, I'm like, but are you a planner? Do you understand all the components of planning? It's one thing to write a nice, pretty document. We used to do a ton of business plans for people, and we'd hand over this big, pretty document. And then I'd realize as I'm handing it over, this person is not a planner. They're not a planner. They're not, we should have took them through courses and courses of learning how to plan, how to think about and forecast and predict. Okay, so then the next is funding. Whatever idea, concept you're going to be involved in, you need to know the funding source. And you should be allowed to ask that. And you should be allowed to know. To be honest with you, why would you get involved? Because I'm telling you, that funding source probably is dictating all the expectations, sadly. And so that will give you some basis of really what the expectations are on you. Then within these other ones are technically within contingency planning, but I'm gonna break them out separate. Damage control is a real aspect of life, but sadly now in this what do they call it? The real life stuff. What is it called? On reality TV stuff. You can make a killing being in damage control. What they say, Snooki and them now got $100,000 an episode now. They negotiated $100,000 episode for clowning. So, but hey, hey, that's life now. But damage control, in other words, you can go out and mess up your whole life and still make millions of dollars. So the thing about it is, the next one is exit strategies. That's what the exit strategies we talked about before too. Exit strategies. Exit strategies, when we talk about exit strategies, having, in business, formal business, corporations, they love actually being bought out for the most part. That is an exit strategy. Corporations will set themselves up either to be bought out or to acquire other companies, to expand, right? An exit strategy doesn't mean you left the building. That may just mean you left the room. So that's the whole idea. So in organizations and businesses, they use exit strategies. They try to define an exit strategy over a course of time. Usually it's 36 to 60 months. They look at that within 36 to 60 months, or they may look at an expanded view out. But it's just like, which is a major shift, AT&T buying out Verizon. What most people don't know is Comcast is trying to buy out Sprint. So I'm telling you, you have to understand what are all these things going on. Everything from Arby's bought Wendy's, and then on top of that, Dunkin' Donuts is trying to buy Hardee's. You have to understand what are all these exchanges. Does this not impact the region? If you're from North Carolina or from the West Coast, even that little buyout changes the way the food service industry is impacted. So in cell phone companies, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. And now the next one's too, partnerships. That gets back to your support. You could have put the support block right there. That's your part. Executive summary is the one-page summary of what the company and the organization is all about. Usually in the executive summary, you're talking about the opportunity. You're telling whoever you're sending that executive summary to that if you buy my product or my service, or you hire me, or you make an investment in us or them, this is what your return on investment is going to be. And you got to have some concept of when that, and most investors, they want their money back within 36 to 60 months. All right, then company summary, you're talking about the people involved. You want to highlight your team and why they're so strong and so great and why they're the ones who deliver on whatever the initiative is. Products and services, really I should have said product and service line. When the gentleman was talking about all the ideas, that's where all your products and services and ideas will be. And you can actually say that. That's where all your ideas and concepts too can fit in that box. And then you want to take the top level of priorities, the top level of concepts too. Which I'm telling you, I want to share everything because there's a whole other series of processes too. Okay, marketing and sales, how you tell the story. Somebody's got to know your message. They got to know the story, and you got to make it appealing to them. What's the interest? Like how we talked about with King Streets. How many people are interested in helping us with King Streets? We only got a few hands with King Streets. Hey, we'll teach y'all more about that then. We got to work on our marketing and sales. Yeah. Huh? So, yeah. You said, man, I what? Yeah. We'll talk about that more. But no, the marketing and sales. you got to, you know, in this world, it's all about sales. At the end of the day, we're always being sold to, and we don't admit it. But every 7 minutes on TV, they show what? A commercial, right? And they're constantly online. I used to ask people all the time, and I say, when was the last time you paid to be on Facebook? When was the last time you paid to be on Google? Never, right? Well, how are these companies worth billions of dollars? Advertisers, that's right. Advertisers, right? They ain't got to charge us nothing, as long as they can get our attention. And that's that field of view. As long as I can get in your field of view, I can sell you something, and I can sell that to somebody else. We just thinking about how it feels for us. The reality is they understand how it feels for us. That gets into the psychology of it. So the market sales, again, in management, your strong team, legal, it's going to come down to some kind of documents. It's always going to come down. They need a RFP, a request for proposal. They need the proposal. They need some kind of level of it. Financials, everything comes down to a number. I've dealt with investors that they asked me for my financials before they did anything else. And they told me all about myself and my business just through my financials. They were like, hey, you said you're going to accomplish this quarter, that quarter, next quarter. You said this is what y'all going to have at the end of the year. This is your profits and losses, all that stuff that went through. Contingency planning, backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. When we do people in business, literally, we have an A through Z. We try to have them have a whole series of plans that they have. Funding, you either going to self-fund it or you're going to convince other people to fund it. I've gone through all the levels of funding, like friends and family, angel investors, and all that stuff, the venture capital. All those things are done too. Damage control, things are going to go wrong. Learn how to respond to it. Learn how to react to it. It's not going to be perfect. It's just not. And I mean, if it is, it's only going to last for a split second. Damage control. Exit strategies, know how to get out of it. At the end of the day, expect it. It's always there. Things completely fall apart sometimes. You need to have had some sense of what you have to do for you. And that's not a bad thing because, you know, it's like being on the plane. If they say if your kids are with you, what do they tell you to do first? Put the mask on you first, then put it on your child. That's what they tell you to do on the plane. So the same thing, partnerships, you can't do enough of that. Because now, in essence, you extend your sales force, you extend your teams, you extend your growth. Data, collect data. Information, that's what I'm talking about. Constantly track data, constantly research. Your zip code is one of the best places to start. Understand the industry as a whole. You got to see the bigger picture. You can't set your course for something that where no one else is right now. In other words, if you pull your ship up into a port and there's no one in that port, what were you expecting to happen? You've got to know where the value is at that point. Technology is forever changing. All our cell phones now are better than most laptops. So and then they are. And personal, that's a real space. Enjoy yourself. I know we've kind of been in a tense space with all this, but I'm telling you, I love having fun. I mean, I love to enjoy myself. I don't drink or smoke, but I'll tell you, I love dancing. But the whole thing is personal, so you blend all those components together. Any other questions about just this? The main thing was me trying to teach you how to one as a tool, the 16 blocks. But that works too. That is actually a business plan. If you feel something in each one of those blocks, you in essence would write a business plan. I actually helped 2 people write a book using this, write books using this. They wanted to write their books, and I literally told them, I said, man, just put one section in every block. And so the guy by the name, he knows someone here too, Sean. He never did give them their name. They're with the Points of Life Foundation, and he was trying to get me to talk to him. But the thing about it is, he said that he said well, he didn't say it. He showed it to me. When he eventually finished his book, he had about 60-some sheets of these things, and he had them in different colors. He started color coding them. I didn't teach him that part, but he started color coding them. And before you know it, he said, man, this made it so easy for me to write my book. He said, because I just went section by section. So anyone that want to write a book, this is a great technique for doing that too as well. But any other questions just about overall use for it? Okay? I know we didn't take a break, so I'm doing a lot in here too. All right, well, real quick, and then I'm going to finish up with this. We just got the last few sheets, and then there's a survey on the back. Ms. Longworth, I didn't realize it. Ms. Longworth, I didn't realize the survey is connected to the sheet. Okay, it happens. See, that's what I'm talking about. Make adjustments. All right. Again, the annual calendar we put in here that if you want to start using it, give yourself some sense of what you want to accomplish quarter to quarter, season to season. It's not just about the monthly goals, because the monthly goals can make you feel kind of intense. There are 2 different types of goals, right? There's a set of goals that you have to accomplish, and then there's some you just kind of use as a reference along the way. So at some point, if you wanted to, you could actually start putting down here. When we do these in classes and we have more extended classes, we actually go through each one of these months and talk about the patterns in the months. I'll give you a great example for the month of January. For the month of January, what are some activities that happen in the month of January? Martin Luther King Day, right? New Year's. But what are some activities in the month of January that make money all over this country? He said after Christmas sales, and somebody said what else? I'll tell you a big one too. And even you said what else? He said, well, just for January. See, she's already going to the next month, but that's literally what we do. It is. It's a fiscal year for a lot of companies too. But there's a set of activities that normally happen between the 1st and about the 12th of January. 1st and the 12th of January. No, the football games. And you think about how many cities host football games during that time period. And so that affects hospitality, that affects everything that goes on in that particular city, that particular region. So you almost can follow the pattern of where those bowl games are going to be held to what kind of business and things that happens in each one of those cities. And I'm telling you, there are cities and regions of the country that rely on it. They make just about all their money they need to make that day. And then now, if we went to November, and I said in November, what is the day that makes all that money? Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. What do they call it? Black Friday. Why do they call it Black Friday? Yeah, you know the thing about it in business? When you lose money, what color do you write it in on your financial? Red. When you make money, what color you write it in? Black. There are companies that make more money on that day than they make all year, so that's why they call it Black Friday. Black Monday does not actually exist. That's a marketing thing. They say they actually make more money on other days selling, because Black Monday is when they say it's the biggest online sales day. They're pushing that out there. That is actually not one of the biggest sales days for online sales. So now the thing about it is, I'm telling you, all of us there's an enormous marketing engine around it. But like I said, in the extended classes, we go through every one of these months and we talk about what are those patterns. What are those patterns to things that are happening? Again, you have to understand the horizon behind you. The next page, the next page behind it, that is what 168 hours looks like. This is the one right here that says Sunday through Saturday, right? Early mornings, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. I think I got a typo in there. But 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then, of course, you got mornings, afternoons, and evenings. To give you an idea, 1,440 minutes in a day. Oprah Winfrey makes $3,000 a minute. Yes, put it in perspective, right? And she's just the wealthiest celebrity. She's not the wealthiest person. So that's just to give you an idea. 168 hours in a minute. The thing about it, when we have people who say that I struggle with time management, I said, then the whole thing is think about it. I know I only have 24 hours in a day. But if I get 2 hours from you, and 2 hours from you, and 2 hours from you, and 2 hours from you, I'm up to 30 hours, right? In other words, that's part of that team management. All of a sudden now you're managing more things in that day. She only makes one show, and then they just show it all around the world. So it's not like she's there, right? That's how you manage a process. In leadership and management, at some point, you no longer manage people. You manage the processes that manage people. You manage the processes that manage people. And then you make sure those processes yield to the personal side of what people have in their life. So at some point, when I talked about what do you do on Sundays, what do you do on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, the entire time I was asking y'all that, I was literally seeing this block schedule and what happens in that. We use these with kids a lot too, and I'll tell you that works very well too. On the backstage too, since we only asked you about your top 4 locations, we call this the life tracks. We literally can follow you around on a sheet of paper. So typically I can sit there and go, okay, where are these places? What do you do at each one of these places? The list on the side is for you to write down any additional places we didn't actually put down. And then we got a whole series of these diagrams. We try to follow your mind around or follow you around to see what your set of activities are. Okay? And then of course, and sadly, because that way I didn't realize, it's actually attached and we actually need these surveys. Remember I said data, right? If you don't mind tearing those off and filling in the comment cards, and then as we're doing those, if you got any questions or comments, and I usually end this by saying on behalf of the team and King Street's Management Group, it's an absolute honor to serve y'all. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see each other again and work with each other more, and we'll make sure y'all get our information too. Yes, sir. LLCs, you know what? The Secretary of State's website, SOS, Secretary of State's website is by far, you can't go wrong with it. It's a great website.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.